Hello, teacher friends. Welcome to your weekly shout out of solidarity, otherwise known as the Beyond Measure podcast. Christina Whitlock here, your host and self appointed anytime piano teacher friend. This show generally keeps itself to a glorious 20 minutes or less, thanks to the fact that you do not have to listen to me talk about vitamins or footwear that I may or may not actually like. That's right, this is an ad-free space because of those who support me over in my Patreon community. If you would like to be part of what keeps this show running and score yourself some terrific camaraderie from other incredible teachers at the same time, head over to christinawhitlock.com/Patreon to sign up for just $3. Thanks in advance, my friends. And now, on with the show. You are listening to episode 164, and it happens to be a good one. Cheers to reducing confusion, intimidation, and embarrassment. I run a consultation service where I meet with a handful of studio teachers each month to offer advice on a myriad of topics. Some people book consultations to enlist my help creating the verbiage for new tuition rates or studio policies. Some want help planning studio events, and others just want to flesh out their understanding of how to better teach specific concepts like reading or rhythm. It's a great part of the work I do in the teacher community these days. And after all, if you can't tell, I count any time spent with other teachers as a win-win situation. Anyway, I say all of that because every now and then there are themes that emerge in these consult sessions. When I find myself saying the same thing to 3 or 4 teachers in the same month, I just know that I should probably release an episode on that topic. And today is one such day. Today's advice stems from a well-known quote by mathematician Larry Martinek, who once wrote, "Children don't hate math. What they hate is being confused, intimidated, and embarrassed by math." He went on to say, "With understanding comes passion, and with passion comes growth. A treasure is unlocked." Now, Larry might have been talking about math here, but he might as well have been talking about piano lessons, or the pursuit of any skill for that matter. Children don't hate math or practicing their instrument. What they hate is being confused, intimidated, and embarrassed by that thing. So, avoiding those 3 qualities, confusion, intimidation, and embarrassment, is our focus for today. Now, this all goes back to remembering what it's like to be a beginner. Try as we might, there are just so many aspects of a lesson that we have become calloused to. We become ingrained in our routines. We forget how new and how uncomfortable the process of learning an instrument can be. I think those feelings that we're focusing on today, this confusion, intimidation, and embarrassment, are absolutely the reason we lose students, or the reason people never pick up an instrument in the first place. And furthermore, I believe it's those 3 feelings, confusion, intimidation, and embarrassment, that keep kids from practicing more enthusiastically at home. Yes, kids are overscheduled. Yes, some of them lack discipline. But I'm here to tell you, if they didn't also have to fight through these feelings of discomfort, if they didn't see practice time as confusing or intimidating, if they didn't feel embarrassed coming back to your studio 7 days later, knowing they were not going to meet your expectations, if they didn't have all those barriers to entry, kids would play their instruments more at home. You will not convince me otherwise. Traditionally, those of us who reach high levels of achievement in music are the ones who could fight through those feelings. We're the success stories, right? I mean, it worked for us. But we are also a very small percentage of the population compared to all of those who have taken a first piano lesson. And this is where I feel that teachers contradict themselves sometimes. We want our students to embrace music study like we did, but we are the exceptions. So, if we want studios full of enthusiastic, growing musicians, the ticket is not to expect students to push through all the uncomfortable feelings like we did. Rather, it's to do whatever we can do to keep them coming back. Because with time is going to come skill, and with skill is going to come confidence, and with confidence will come contentment at the instrument. Lest you think I'm going too soft on you here, let me remind you the skills that we teach at the instrument are innately challenging. Students are going to develop grit and other important work habits through music study, even when we actively seek to reduce intimidation and confusion. It's inevitable, and it's great. I just know that some of you are probably hearing this and tempted to throw shade at kids these days and their inability to push through difficult emotions. I happen to be a big fan of kids these days, and I will always champion them and the way they fight through this wild world of ours. So if you feel that judgment bubbling up inside of you, let that one go, friend. Because again, kids have been quitting instruments due to confusion, intimidation, and embarrassment for centuries. We, you and I, are just the exceptions. So let's get down to brass tacks. How do we actively reduce these negative emotions from a student's experience? First and foremost, we examine what we are asking students to do at home. For example, elementary level students should not be tasked with figuring things out throughout the week, as in, until your students have proven themselves to be independent sight readers, they should not be expected to be decoding their music at home throughout the week. I try my best to avoid assigning new sections or new pieces to an elementary student if we have not already been able to walk through them sufficiently within the lesson. Anything they are tasked with learning at home needs to be sight readable. Everything else assigned should be review from work done thoroughly during the lesson itself. My philosophy with elementary students is this: learning to sit down at the piano each day is a skill unto itself. I want young students to develop an expectation of their day that includes sitting at the piano. This is so much less likely to happen if they are unsure about what to do when they sit down. This is why I believe so strongly in assigning review pieces as well as new repertoire. This is why students should sit and play, quote, for fun. They should improvise and plunk around and do things that parents will often label messing around. My teaching philosophy makes this very clear even before a parent gets to the initial assessment that all kinds of play should be encouraged at home, including things that are assigned and not assigned. But yeah, more than anything, I want my students to establish daily routines that include sitting at the piano. So, in order to accomplish that, their weekly practice assignments are all things they've already proven they can do in their lesson. If they're struggling to read what's in front of them, if I've had to prompt and correct and hold their hand through every note of a piece, it is not ready for them to be assigned for the week. We'll keep working on it next lesson, and I will assign something they can achieve for the week instead. Because developing that habit of sitting at the piano each day is infinitely easier when they see it as playing something they already know, versus something they're going to need to sit down and figure out. Now, as students become more independent readers, that's a different story. But let's be honest here, truly independent sight reading skills often develop much later than we would like to admit. Beyond their weekly assignments, we teachers need to be mindful to give our students as many quick wins within the lesson as possible. This does not mean patronizing your students and doling out empty praise at every possibility. Rather, it means properly breaking down concepts so they can feel successful every step of the way. They're still recognizing the challenge that we're providing. It's just that they feel capable rather than intimidated or embarrassed. We all know that making mistakes is par for the course here, right? We probably tell our students all the time how okay it is to make mistakes. But I've been told that my entire life, and you'd better believe I still feel mortified every time I make the slightest error. I don't like it. I had a page turning debacle at a recent middle school choir performance, and you'd better believe it sent me into a major funk. I hate making mistakes. And if I wasn't already fully invested in this piano thing, the level of discomfort that brought about in me would make it easy to walk away. And again, if I feel that way, me, someone who has heard it all and said it all many times, you'd better believe our students are feeling it. Embarrassment is a powerful emotion. It is not one our students get over easily. So, the best way to combat embarrassment is to build in as many victories as we can to the lesson experience. This includes many things, including ensuring your students are prepared for their performances, that they are playing suitable repertoire, and have prepared on a timeline that is going to set them up for success. It means that when I ask a student to try something in the lesson, I use words like, let's experiment with something. And if it doesn't go well, it's my fault for asking. It means breaking concepts down into small enough pieces for a beginner to really understand. It means being a careful observer of your student. Did they hesitate when they answered your question? Don't be too quick to move on just because you have a plan. Pause and unpack that concept until there are no question marks remaining. I just have to say, this is why following a method series without an abundance of other material is a losing strategy. A method book is a static resource, and as great as they cannot flex with a live human being sitting across from you. They aren't even designed that way. I have an incredibly affordable resource on my website called Making the Most of Your Chosen Method that walks you through the number one exercise I recommend to pedagogy students to make sure they are teaching the student in front of them and not just flipping through pages of a book. I would love for you to check that out. It's at christinawhitlock.com/methods. Anyway, we could talk about ways to eliminate these negative emotions all day. But I think the most important takeaway today is to recognize their danger. I think we need to look upon these three things: confusion, intimidation, and embarrassment as poison to the experiences we provide. Again, they are surely inevitable, but instead of blaming student exits on your music choices or studio parents or lack of determination or whatever the case may be, try blaming confusion, blame intimidation, blame embarrassment, and then see what you can do to ruthlessly reduce those elements in your lesson experience. More victory, less confusion. Again, that's how you keep students in the studio, friends. And as long as they're coming back, we have the opportunity to continue enhancing their lives for the better. Okay, Grab the nearest beverage and hoist it into the air with me, friends, because it's time for a toast. Studio music teacher friends from all around the world, today we are celebrating you. You, the exception. You who pushed through these negative emotions in your own study. You who did not let confusion, intimidation, and embarrassment deter you from studying your instrument. What a marvel you are! I'm so happy that we made it here together. And now we set our sights on serving future generations even better than we had it. May we remain mindful of the poison these elements inflict on our lesson experiences. May we seek clarity over confusion, competence over intimidation, and accomplishment over embarrassment. As Larry Martinek said, with understanding comes passion, and with passion comes growth. And growth, friends, is the name of the game. We want our students to continue growing, and we want to continue growing ourselves. Again, I'm just so happy to be along for the ride with you. Cheers to you, my growth-minded teacher friend. Hear, hear. Okay, so this was an important episode. I really hope you share it with your teacher friends because I truly believe this is the message our profession needs to hear this week. And while I'm speaking of teacher friends, let's celebrate our teacher friend of the week, shall we? This week's TFOTW is my friend, Diane Dean Johnson. Diane Dean Johnson is an active member of my Patreon community, and she's one of those consult clients I talked about at the beginning of this episode. Diane has a story like many of you that she came to piano teaching later in life and often finds herself wondering if she's doing it right. Here's what I often remind Diane, and I'll remind you today too. All of our unique experiences in life feed into the kind of teacher we are. And I know we're all really good at naming our deficits, like the things we didn't do that would have benefited our teaching now. Yet we often fail to recognize the many aspects of our lives that do benefit our teaching every day. Diane spent many years in public education, and that, her understanding of student diversity and how they learn, amongst so many other things, is an absolute superpower that she brings to the table as a piano teacher. She has perspectives on students from being in the classroom setting with them that I will never have. I love the way she is growing and taking steps to further her understanding of piano-related concepts, yet also embracing that which she knows, trusting her experiences, and believing she has so much to offer this profession. It's everything, friends. Anyway, Diane Dean Johnson, congratulations on being this week's Teacher Friend of the Week. We all applaud you and the good work you're doing in this world. Whew, okay, that will do it for episode 164, friends. As always, I am going to link several past episodes of this podcast in today's show notes. That includes remembering what it's like to be a beginner. That's episode 89. Kids These Days, episode 145. Unhurrying Your Elementary Age Students, that's episode 108. Preparing Students for Performance, that's 3 episodes, 64 through 66. Bouncing Back When You Disappoint Yourself, episode 71. And some other fun things. Okay, so you can find show notes for today's episode at christinawhitlock.com/episode 164. Or by clicking the details on this episode in your podcasting app. And there you will also find links to that methods resource I mentioned, as well as how to join the Patreon community and to find details on my Studio Foundations course, which contains a whole unit, by the way, on embracing what makes you a unique teacher, just like our teacher friend of the week, Diane Dean Johnson, has done. All right, onward and upward, friends. We've got so much important work to do.